Hello, I'm Dr. Bill Spady, and I'm here to share with you one of the most exciting adventures I've had in my whole career. And that is the editing and the release of a new book called Reclaiming the Heart and Soul of Education. Because I sincerely feel we've lost it, and you may feel the same way. So if you're unhappy with education, if you think education needs to change, or if you think education really needs to begin to honor the heart and the soul of the learner rather than the curriculum we've had since 1893, then I encourage you to take a very serious look at this book. My career began way back in the late 1960s as I found myself committed more and more to what I call changing and improving the conditions of success in schools. But it was a long while before I wrote my first book. It's called Outcome-Based Education, Critical Issues and Answers. And it was my first attempt at really not only focusing on how can we expand the conditions of success in schools so that we can get far more successful learners, but what should the outcomes be for schools? And at that point, we were going through a major transformation of thinking about educational outcomes, about what learning meant, about who is the individual, and what do we want the product of education to be. At that point, I was a pioneer in that effort. And what we, and my colleagues and I came up with was the notion of sending out into the world fully empowered human beings. Not simply people who were good at book learning, not people good at taking tests, but people, in fact, ready to meet the challenges of a very complex and changing world. Well, that work evolved to a next stage in our thinking, and I tried to capture that in a book called Paradigm Lost. And it was a further extension, a deepening of what are we trying to do in education, who's the learner we're trying to reach, and what are the conditions that really help to produce that. And the farther we went, the more complex the whole issue of educational change became, and the deeper we had to probe and look at how to make education be different. Finally, in frustration, in the year 2001, this book, Beyond Counterfeit Reforms, was produced because I literally had come to the place where I could no longer caution the grip that the testing world, the accountability world, etc. were having, and how it was narrowing and narrowing and narrowing and narrowing options for students at a time when the technologies in our world and the knowledge base in our world were expanding and expanding and expanding it. So we had a system narrowing and constraining us and limiting us at the very same time that life was requiring and demanding an expansion of those very same conditions. Finally, the opportunity came to really put it all together. And I did in a book called Learning Communities 2.0. And I used the term learning community instead of the term school because I had realized by that time that as soon as you say the word school, everybody's thinking goes to a stereotyped notion of a building and classrooms and a teacher and semesters and grade levels and subject matter, all of them boxes. We were boxed in by the school box. So I wrote about that extensively in that book, and also sort of laid out a challenge to think deeper and deeper about who is the human being, what are the intelligences they have, what are the capabilities and competences that they inherently hold within them that we need to nurture and cultivate. At the end of the book, however, I wrote an epilogue. And the epilogue said, you know, we've come a long way in the last 30 years. We've gone from first paradigm thinking about education to second paradigm thinking about change in education, to third paradigm thinking, and now in this book is a realization and a demonstration of what real fourth paradigm thinking is, but we haven't hit the fifth paradigm. And I decided this past year to reach out to a number of colleagues, classroom teachers, administrators, deep scholars, other people who are very much involved in education, and saying, what are we missing? What can you contribute? What would you like to share about reclaiming the heart and soul of education? Because every one of these people deeply feel that we've lost its heart and soul. So there are 14 chapters in the book. There are 12 different authors. They contribute a broad range of perspectives about what reclaiming the heart and soul of education mean on the ground, in schools, in classrooms. We have examples of wonderful models of alternative schools, wonderful models of classroom practice, deep understandings of the limitations on curriculum, the structuring of schools, but it all comes around to being a statement about fifth paradigm learning and fifth paradigm education, reaching deeply into the heart and soul of the individual and drawing out their very best capabilities and capacities. I hope you'll take a look. It's an exciting book. Thank you.